Alright, so for this video, we're going to be making the eyes. So you're going to need your 4.25mm hook, some black worsted weight yarn, and your yellow worsted weight yarn, as well as some light worsted weight yarn, or DK weight yarn in the white color, and a yarn needle. So to get started, we're going to do a magic ring, and we'll do 6. Alright, so we've got our magic ring. Now we're going to be crocheting 6 stitches into the ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Pull your fingers out of loop and go ahead and pull it tight. And then for row 2, we're just going to continue working in a spiral, and we're going to do increase times 6. Increase. So for row 3, we're going to do a single crochet, then an increase stitch, and we'll do that 3 times, and then we're going to switch to our yellow. Alright, so to switch colors, we're here on our last crochet for the black, and instead of yarning over and pulling through a second time of the black, we're going to yarn over and pull through on the yellow. This will give us a nice clean transition. So we're going to repeat that same pattern with the yellow. We're going to do a single crochet and an increase. And we're going to do that 3 times. So then when you've got that done, you're going to go ahead and give yourself about 8 inches of each color for a yarn tail. Go ahead and pull it through. So that's what our eye is going to look like at the moment. You're going to do that one more time so you have a total of 2 eyes. So with our threads in the back, we're going to take our 2, I guess, entry-level yarn tails, and we're just going to knot them off so we don't lose them. Then when we've done that, we're going to go ahead and just cut them off so they're not causing any problems. So we now have 2 eyes, and what we need to do is we need to add the highlights to the eyes. So you're going to take about, I'd say about 8 inches of your white yarn, thread it through your needle. Then I tend to knot mine at the bottom. I just knot it all together when I'm done. So we're going to be working through the back side of this third row here. We're going to come up through the back. And we're going to pull it through till we have just a little bit on the other side. Then we're going to go back down through the back, just one stitch over, so we've got a little tiny highlight here. Then we'll come up one stitch over from that. Pull all the way through. And then we're going to go down over 2 stitches. So we have a big highlight and we have a little highlight. And we're going to flip it over to the back. We'll cut the needle free. And then we're just going to knot these yarn ends together in the back. You don't want to pull too tightly because your the highlights, if you pull them too tightly, can kind of ruin the shape of the eye, make it a little more squinty. And also, if you want to have a bolder highlight, you can make them bigger, or you can go over them multiple times so that it's more defined and pronounced. So that's an option. And so you're going to do the exact opposite pattern in this eye so that they are mirror images of each other. So when you have both eyes done, they're going to look like this. Alright, so the next thing we're going to make is going to be the nose. So we're going to start with a magic ring. And then we're going to crochet 6 single crochets into that ring. Going to go ahead, pull that tail nice and tight to begin your circle. For this one, we're going to be using a piece of our yellow yarn as a stitch marker, or at least I will. You can do whatever you want. And then the next row, row 2, is increase times 6. So we're just going to work through our 6 stitches that we have, doing an increase stitch each time. You can see that the center didn't stay very tight, so that is the nice thing about working with the magic ring, is you can just pull it and adjust it and close up all of those holes. So for the next 2 rows, row 3 and 4, we're just going to single crochet 12 into the stitches that we have. So go ahead and do that, and we'll pick up on row 5. Row 5 will be single crochet 2, followed by a decrease. And we're going to do that 3 times in total. So at the end of the row, we will have 9 stitches. So the next 2 rows, row 6 and row 7, we're going to be just single crocheting 9. Let's go ahead and do that, and we'll pick it up on row 8. Alright, so before we begin row 8, we're going to take the time to stuff the nose. And to stuff this nose, we do not need to use the nylon. We can just go straight into the amigurumi. I'm going to pull my needle out so I can do this a little bit better. Alright, so that's pretty good for now. So row 8 is going to be a single crochet followed by a decrease stitch. And we're going to do that 3 times. So at the end, we'll have a total of 6 stitches for this row. Row 9 is just going to be single crochet 6 into the stitches that are existing. So before we finish off our very last row, we're going to take the time to put the last little bit of stuffing that we can into this hole, into the nose. So if your nose is good and stuffed, you don't have to do this step, but mine was a little understuffed, I think. There we go. That feels better. All right, so the very last row is going to be decrease 3. So you're going to work through these front loops, decreasing, and in the end you should only have 3 stitches, and this is going to bring the nose to a definite point. Alright, so that's the end of the nose. So we're going to cut off like 6 to 8 inches and pull that through, and pull out your yarn marker if you've been using one. So this is where we're going to leave the nose for now. We'll do a little bit of shaping probably in the next video, but this is where we're going to leave it for now. For this next video, we're going to need our owl, the eyes that we have made, a bunch of pins, a yarn needle, and about a foot of the white light worsted weight yarn. So what we're going to be doing is attaching the eyes and shaping the head. So the eyes are going to be placed in the 7th visible row. So we're going to count from the neck up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to place them here in this row, and they're going to be 7 stitches apart. So you're going to look, try and find what's right down the middle of your project and say, I think it's about right here for me. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is where the edges of my eyes are going to be placed. So I'm just going to hold those like that so I don't forget or lose it, because that does happen. I'm just going to take my eye, place the center right there, take this eye, place the center right where my finger was, pin it into place. So this looks really odd at the moment, but I promise it will look good in the end. So go ahead and pin it nice and secure. Actually, before you pin it completely into place, make sure that your yarn tails are accessible. So we don't want them to, there we go. We don't want them to be caught and unusable. So we're just going to keep pinning. And tuck anything that you don't want to. You can see I have this little strand here. Tuck anything that you don't want out just behind there and pin it into place so we won't have to worry about weaving it in later. Okay. And so what you're going to do, we're going to work here on this eye first. So you're going to thread your needle with the yarn tail. Like so. And then you're just going to work going out and underneath a stitch. You want to be fairly close to the eye. You don't want to, drag it out and make it weird. And then you're going to go up and through. You actually want it to be on, there we go. So it's on both sides of the stitch and pull it through. And somehow I've tangled already. There we go. And you're just going to keep doing that all the way around. Just sewing this eye into place. So once you've worked your way all around securing the bottom of the eye, you're going to knot off, and you're going to try and knot your yarn off kind of almost underneath the eye, because you don't want it to be visible. You're going to go ahead and kind of weave in the ends. For me, that's going to look like just kind of pulling it through, unthreading my needle, cutting a little bit, then hiding that in the... So next I'm going to go ahead and thread the black yarn on. And we're going to do that same thing. I'm going to rotate it so that it works easier for me. I'm going to go out. You're just going to pick up the stitches and thread it through. So when you get to kind of this outside corner area, if you want to add lashes, you can go ahead and do that. I'm not going to for this project, but all you do is you just kind of take your stitch out farther and then bring it through. And what that does, I'll switch out my owls really quick. So that will give you this look, like you've got little lashes. And that's clearly what I did on this first owl, but I already have one with lashes, so I'm going to do one without. So now that I've gotten here to the end and it's secured on all the way, I'm going to knot it off and weave in the ends. So when you've completely fastened this eye on and everything is done, you're going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other eye. So now that we have both of our eyes sewn on, we're going to go ahead and thread our needle with our white yarn here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go right in at the corner of the eye, and we're going to go through to the other corner, the corner of the other eye. We're just going to pull it, not completely through, but leave a couple of inches here. And then making sure to go over at least half a row, so you grab a stitch. You're going to go back like that. So it's important that you grab a stitch, because what we're going to do right now is we're going to shape it. So we're going to pull, and let me cut off my needle so you can see it a little bit better. So we're going to be pulling these until the eyes kind of come into focus. So I think they need to be pulled a little bit more. But if you don't grab a stitch, you're just going to shape the stuffing on the inside and the nylon, not the actual yarn that we've been crocheting. So you're going to take your yarn, you're just going to begin a knot, and then you're going to pull until the eyes look right to you. And you can pull them too close together, so you don't want to do that. And I may have done that just a little bit, so I'm going to loosen it just a smidge. And that looks pretty good to me. So now you're going to just double knot. Maybe triple knot. When in doubt, be really safe. And then you're going to weave in your ends. Mine are a smidge long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut them off before weaving them all the way in. There we go. So now we have our eyes. This one looks a little angry. Not quite sure why. That's a bit better. In this next video, we're going to be attaching the nose to the head. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to move the body away. We're going to thread our needle with the tail of the nose. So now that we have the yarn tail on, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the second to last row and then go up to the fourth row. We're going to pull it through. And so what that does is that gives us a little bit of a beak end here, just a little bit. And it also gets the yarn up to a good height for attaching it to the head. So we'll get our head here, or our whole body here, really. All right, and so we're going to be placing the nose in the 6th visible row, counting from the neck up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to insert our needle through about 2 rows, and you're going to not just go like straight underneath, you're going to want to grab kind of the stuffing behind. And then pull it through, and then you're going to come up through the nose again. Pushing it a little farther. And you're going to pull it through, and that's how it's going to be attached, like so. So right now it's a little bit wiggly still, so you're going to just do that a couple more times, where you're going to come down through the bottom, through the head, you know, grab some stuffing, pull it tight. And I'm kind of turning the nose to the side so that I can see what I'm doing. You're going to pull it up. Anyway, when you feel like it's good, pretty secure, you might want to put a couple of, oop, I lost my yarn. So you might want to take a couple stitches where you go kind of this way through the nose, just to make it really, really secure. And when it's good and tied on, you're just going to knot it off and weave in the ends. All right, so there we have the nose, or the beak, all attached. So the next thing we're going to do in our quest to make an amigurumi snowy owl is we're going to make the toes and then the feet. So we'll begin the toes by doing a magic ring and single crocheting 6 into that ring. And you're going to pull it tight. And we'll begin row 2. So I'm sure you're getting used to this by now, but row 2 is increase 6. Just going to work our way around, increasing. So the end will have 12 stitches. All right, so for row 3, and actually row 3 through 11, we're just going to be single crocheting. We're just going to be single crocheting 12 into each of the existing stitches. And so we're going to be making essentially a long tube for the shape of the toe. So we will pick up after row 11. All right, so when you've finished the 11 rows, you're going to, on the first one, you're going to cut off a yarn tail 1.5 to 2 inches. And you're going to make a second toe, and you're not going to cut this one off. What you're going to do with the second one is you're going to join them together. So in order to join them together, we're going to chain 1, like so, and then we're going to insert a hook through the next stitch in our first toe that we made. And we're also going to we're going to keep our yarn tail here. We're just going to kind of crochet over it so that it's nice and secure and we don't lose it. So we're going to yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through. And then at this point, we're just going to single crochet around this toe. And after a couple of stitches of holding on to this yarn tail, we're just going to cut it off so it's not in the way. But by now it's plenty secure. And we're just going to keep on crocheting around this toe, putting one single crochet into each existing single crochet. And so when you get to where the join is, it can get a little bit confusing as to what you're supposed to crochet into and what you're not supposed to. So if you turn it this way, you can see the continuous chain. And so, but if you look at it this way, it gets a little bit muddy. So we're going to tip it this way just so we can see it better. And we're going to crochet through this back loop of that single crochet that we used to join them together. Put one stitch there. And then onto the next toe. And you're just going to keep single crocheting around the entirety of this toe until you get back to the very beginning over here. So when you've crocheted all the way around and your two toes are joined together, you should have 26 stitches. So for our next row, row 2 of crocheting the feet, so we've moved from making the toes to into the feet, we're going to single crochet 3, and then we're going to decrease 1. And we're going to do that 5 times, followed by a single crochet at the very end. So at the end of row 2, we're going to have 21 stitches. And we're also going to take this opportunity to stuff the toes. So once again, we're not going to need any nylons for these. Just going to take our fiberfill and stuff it directly into the toe. All right, so row 3 of the foot is going to be single crochet 5, followed by a decrease stitch. And now we'll decrease, and we're going to follow that same pattern, single crochet 5, decrease, and we'll do that 3 times, so in the end we'll have a total of 18 stitches. Alrighty, row 4 is going to be similar. We're going to single crochet 4 and then decrease. And we're going to do this 3 times, so at the end we'll have a total of 15 stitches. Alright, we just finished row 4, now on to row 5. We're going to single crochet 3 and decrease. And we'll do that 3 times for a total of 12 stitches when we're all done. So before we begin the next row, we're going to go ahead and stuff some more fiber fill in here into sort of the beginning of the foot and into the top of the toes. That feels a little bit better. All right, now on to row 6. And actually, row 6 through 11 is going to be single crocheting 12 stitches into each of the stitches that we already have. So go ahead and do that, and we will pick up on row 12, which is the very last row for the feet. So before we begin our very last row, we're going to stuff the last talon. Alright, so that looks pretty good. So our last row, row 12, is going to be decrease 6. So once you've done that, you're going to cut, I don't know, 3-inch tail or so. Pull your yarn through, and then we're just going to gather the rest of these stitches, the outside loops. So you're going to go through an outside loop, pull it through. And we're just going to do this all the way around. Then when you have them all gathered, you're just going to pull tight and knot it off and weave in the ends. You're going to do that a second time, so you have 2 feet. So the very last thing we have to do to get the feet ready before we attach them to the snowy owl is to add the talons. So you're going to take about a foot of black yarn, and you're going to thread it onto your yarn needle. You're going to take your needle and you're going to put it in the center, in between the second and third row, but then you're going to angle it up in that same row. You're going to leave a little bit of a tail. And you're just going to keep going through that same stitch at the bottom, but then change which stitch you're going out of at the top. Then I'm just going to have 3 lines here, so I'm going to pull this through like so. I'm going to cut my needle off and tie a knot in my yarn. And you're going to weave in the ends. For the sake of ease, I'm going to use one of my smaller crochet hooks. But you can use the G-size hook. So once you've done that, you're going to do the same thing to the other toe and to your other foot. So when you have all of your talons on, we're ready to attach the feet to the body. So you're going to take about 2 feet of white yarn and thread it through your needle. So when it's doubled over, it's about 1 foot in length. And you're going to knot the end. So what you want to make sure to do is have your talons with the triangle part facing down. And we're going to place them on the body like this. So you want them to be, pretty even here. We're only going to be able to attach one at a time, clearly. But what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over, and kind of where the toes meet the rest of the foot, you're going to pull through and then insert your needle through the hole right below the knot, just so that you have a good secure grip on that. And then you're going to take your needle and you're going to go in to the body, not just under the stitches, but you want to grab some the fiber fill as well. You're going to go across and bring it up. So this way you can attach the feet to the body. Sorry, this is probably a little bit dizzying at the moment. You're going to pull it nice and tight, and that will be the kind of initial securing of the foot. And then you're going to keep going down through the body. And up through the foot, working your way out toward the toes. And when you get to the toes, you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to do it on a smaller scale. So you're going to come up just on the other side of the toe, and then go through the toe. And you're only going to need a couple of, probably, 3 joins in the body, and then, 1 or 2 per toe to just hold it in place. Alright, looks like I'm actually running out of yarn, so maybe do 2.5 feet of yarn so you can secure it all in one go. So when you have it fastened on as well as you'd like, you're just going to go ahead and knot off and then weave in the ends. You're going to do the same thing with the next foot. So we're going to place this foot just right here, following that same technique. All right, once you have your feet, we are completely done with our snowy owl crochet along. I would love to see the pictures of your finished amigurumi using the hashtag SnowyOwlCAL. So take care, and I'll see you next time.